The question is that this House has considered E-Petition 700317 relating to bovine tuberculosis control and badger culling. And I call upon Sarah Dyke.
Mr. Stewart, it's an honour to serve with you in the chair this afternoon and speak on this important debate. And I'd like to thank all of the petitioners, including the 321 from Glastonbury and Somerton. Growing up on a dairy and beef farm, I'm all too aware of the devastating impact that TB is capable of unleashing. And I also recently attended the Dairy Industry Dinner and the Dairy Show, both held at the Royal Bath and West Showground, just outside my constituency, where I met with dairy farmers from all over the country. And speaking to farmers there, I was once again reminded of the emotional trauma they experience when they are told that they have reactors in their herd. Farmers rear their animals with exceptional care and are proud to uphold high welfare standards. So when an outbreak occurs, it's the worst news that they can receive. But of course, farming is also a business. And alongside the emotional impact, there is also the financial impact as well. Mr. Stewart, currently farmers receive around £2,000 compensation for slaughtered cows, but this does not account for the business costs. A family farm in South Barrow, in my constituency, had been TB-free for over 50 years, but a recent suspected case, an animal brought in from a market, forced their temporary closure. They told me that the rules, as they stand, are not fit for purpose and fail to adapt for different farming practices. Yes, of course I will.
I'm very grateful, and it sounds a little bit like a case that I have in the area that I represent, where Rachel and Andrew Webber had TB found and then introduced an additional 11 cows, and DEFRA said that they would only be compensated 50% of the cost of those cows, given that they were introduced after an ongoing TB outbreak was found. Does she think that DEFRA ought to be paying 100% compensation for those losses?
My honourable friend for his intervention, and I wholeheartedly agree. The financial burden, but the emotional burden on farmers is devastating. And we know the pressures that our farmers are under already with the inheritance tax, the recent withdrawal of SFI, the countryside stewardship coming to the end of this year. Farmers are, many of them are on the brink, and TB, as we know, really leads many to close their farm gates for the very last time. So proper compensation is absolutely crucial. If I can go on to the current testing system, Mr. Stewart, the current system is failing animals and it is failing our farmers. Too many infected animals slip through undetected, while many farmers lose clean stock completely unnecessarily. All the while, taxpayer spends nearly £30 million per year on compensation alone to its farmers, to our UK farmers. But in total, the cost of TB is estimated to be well over £100 million per year to the public purse. Now, I recently visited Gatcombe Farm in my honourable friend's constituency of Honiton and Sidmouth. The TB eradication project there is being led by the farmer Robert Reed and his vet Dick Sibley. The research carried out over the last 10 years raises important questions for the Minister about how we should solve this problem. Their work has shown that undetected infection in cattle is the main driver of transmission and that current skin testing methods has serious flaws. Some cows pass the test 30 times over, but they fail under more advanced blood or faeces tests. But currently, enhanced testing is illegal in ODF herds, despite the fact that it's this failure to detect TB and the lack of trust in the system that is causing so many of the issues. Yes, of course.
I thank the honourable friend for giving way. A farmer in my constituency of South Devon has engaged in some of the methods suggested by Dick Sibley at Gatcombe and made practical changes to prevent the risk of TB spreading amongst her herd. After years and years of positive tests and the brutal effect on her and her family's mental health of losing much-loved pedigree animals, this approach did appear to have the desired effect. However, it took a great deal of time and commitment for her to carry out the research needed to better understand the biosecurity and how to manage the herd, time which many farmers simply don't have. So would the Honourable Member agree with me that better advice and engagement with farmers would help to ensure that they have the required resources to understand alternative ways to prevent the spread within a herd?
I thank my honourable friend for her intervention, and I absolutely agree. Education is absolutely critical to this, but also to allow that research to continue to happen. Of course, funding is required to be able to do that, but we also need the right capital investment into farms as well, for them to carry out the right type of herd management that is required to help to stop the transmission of bovine TB. Thank you for that intervention. And that's why, yes, of course, I'll give way.
Counterintuitive to the public that new testing is illegal and would require Secretary of State intervention, and that testing in herds that are considered not to have TB is therefore not possible, which is allowing these undetected cows to be left in herds.
I thank the Honourable for her intervention. If I understand her correctly, I think she's saying that that detection is really important at any stage, and if so, then I do agree with her. I think it's absolute ludicrousy that we can't continue to test all animals within a herd. But, Mr Stewart, the Liberal Democrats are calling on the government to develop safe, effective, humane and evidence-based ways of controlling TB. We must invest to produce workable vaccines and surveillance measures that minimises harm to badgers and cattle. The previous farming minister had undertaken a visit to Gatcombe Farm alongside the current head of the NFU, and to his credit, I understand that he had shown intent to this issue. So I urge the current minister to follow in his footsteps, and I'd also like to urge the minister for an update on whether she will be implementing the recommendations from the Godfrey report. The UK lags behind others in tackling TB, with prevalence still at around 8% of cattle, despite the culling of nearly 250,000 badgers since 2013. And so, Mr Stewart, we must look beyond culling and focus on testing of cattle while investing in further research into badger vaccination. I'd also like to see data sharing improved, especially providing farmers with access to their TB testing data alongside relevant supplementary tests, whilst ensuring that governmental agencies like the APHA and BCMS actually talk to each other. British farming is at a crossroads, and this government must stand up and support our farmers. And that's why the Liberal Democrats want to see an extra £1 billion boost to the farming budget, because this would help farmers with the capital investment to support herd management, biosecurity, and help break the transmission routes of tuberculosis in cattle. But trust is difficult to build, and unfortunately DEFRA are not conveying confidence to the industry right now. Farmers are still waiting on the next iteration of SFI, despite promises it would come by the end of the summer. We cannot continue to kill our way out of the TB crisis. Solutions must be found to keep our beef and dairy herds ODF. To safeguard the long-term future of British farming, industry and government must work together to ensure we reach the target of eliminating TB by 2038. Thank you.